It is Transformation Tuesday, and I'm here to share my journey with all of you. If you guys don't already know, my name is Cole Canoe. I'm an author, YouTuber, gamer, and aerialist. And this is actually going to be the first of my videos on my YouTube channel that is dedicated to my transition or my transition timeline. It's not something that I normally talk about in my writing videos, so this is kind of separate, but I felt that it was important for me to kind of start vlogging and keeping track of kind of my transition journey since I have decided to start medically transitioning. Anyway, to kind of get this video series started off, I thought I should go ahead and kind of just tell you guys about my journey so far. It's, again, not something that I've shared before, so I'm actually just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. I think I found out about or like heard about the word trans or trans people probably in like 2017, maybe 2018. I'm not entirely sure when I learned about it being a thing, but about 4 years ago, so it would have been in 2018, is kind of when I first personally had the thought that I might be trans, or like it just was a thought that came to me one day when I was with my partner, and I said something about it and he was really accepting of it, so it just like, it came up. That was kind of when I first thought about it. I also stopped shaving around that same time. Best decision of my life, by the way, because shaving was just always such a hassle and I hated doing it and it was just terrible. It took up so much time. So that was kind of like the beginning of my transition journey, is that I had the thought about being trans and I stopped shaving. It took about a year until kind of my next step. So like I just stopped shaving and like I had the thought, and like it's obviously something that I had been thinking about back and forth, but I think at the time I was just more of a naturalist, and honestly the more research I did on transitioning and medically transitioning, like the more I kind of got in my head about things, and so I really just didn't progress at all in a way. But in like July of 2019 is when I first bought myself some men's clothes, and I remember the experience being really positive because I've actually in the past had like mental breakdowns trying to try on clothes and buy clothes, especially like female undergarments like in the past, and never really understood why, but I just always hated it, and I've always hated shopping. But the first time I went and I got men's clothes and I tried on men's clothes, I was actually really happy. It was not stressful, I was not uncomfortable. I got some clothes and it was mostly like shorts for work because I worked at a gym at the time, so they're just like men's basketball shorts, and I think some clothes to wear like at home or just casually. At that time, I was actually still working out in female clothing because it was tighter fitted, and I also do aerial fitness, so like I'm usually wearing leggings and tight fitted clothing, so like my men's clothing was too loose for me to wear for that, so I was still working out in my men's clothes in 2019. I guess I got really comfortable wearing my clothes for about 6 to 8 months, and then in February of 2020 is when I made the full transition to wearing men's clothes all of the time. I bought clothes to wear to work out in, and I started working out in my men's clothes, and I absolutely loved it. I felt amazing doing that. So that was kind of my next step there, was, you know, integrating it into my actual fitness because I worked out a lot. I'm a personal trainer and an aerialist, so I am in the gym a lot, and so being able to wear comfortable clothing and being able to work out in that clothing really made a huge difference for me. And then I think shortly after that, in like April of 2020, is when I was thinking about cutting my hair short. I used to have really long hair, like really long hair, and I'd had an undercut and like multiple different times, but I think I had actually grown it out. So I had grown it out in 2020. I had long hair, and I was thinking about cutting it short. Now, I did not end up cutting my hair short. I did end up cutting like my undercut, so I had short hair underneath, but I still had my long hair on the top part, because I guess I just wasn't ready to do that. Actually, I think the biggest thing was that it was during 2020, and so we were home for COVID, and I did not feel comfortable cutting my own hair on the top because I had so much hair trauma from when I was younger. So like I was okay with like cutting the bottom and then having my husband help me shave it, but I was not comfortable trying to cut the top, and I was afraid I was gonna mess it up, so I didn't cut it, so I left it long. Actually for a long time after that, for about 2 more years, I think. I left it long. But yeah, so that was like the spring of 2020, and I think probably that summer is when I first started thinking about actually medically transitioning. So that's 2 years after I had first thought about being trans that I started thinking about medically transitioning. And so, of course, I went and got myself a therapist because I wanted to make sure that there wasn't something else going on with me that was making me think that I was trans when I wasn't, because, of course, I like to research things, and I've been looking at things for years at this point, and one of those things includes detransition videos. Of course, I'm gonna watch all of the detransition videos I can find and find out why these people transitioned and then detransitioned. And a lot of what I found was that people were having other trauma that affected them that made them think that transitioning was the answer versus transitioning being appropriate for their identity, so to speak. So I got a therapist, and honestly, guys, I had like a really bad experience in therapy for a while. My first therapist was terrible. So then I stopped seeing her, and I was having a lot of panic attacks at the time, and I think some of it is because I was finally approaching the whole gender identity issues, and I have a lot of childhood trauma and stuff, so like I was kind of working on all that stuff too, and I basically put a pause on transitioning at the time because I started thinking about having personality disorders and all these other things that I was like being diagnosed with. And so I was like, all right, I need to work on my mental health and make sure that this is actually what I want, and not, you know, kind of just like, I don't know, a coping mechanism or a way to change my life because I don't like the way that it is, kind of thing. But yeah, so I had a terrible therapist, got rid of her. I ended up doing like a talk therapy app for about 3 months, and that went well, and it was nice to be able to like text, because like when I was feeling things I could like text it, but I didn't have to worry about it bothering her because she would only see it when she would sign in. And then like I had like weekly sessions with her, like short sessions with her. So that was nice, because like for me, when I experience things that bother me, if I don't like write it down right that moment, then like I forget about it and then I don't talk about it. So but I did that for about 3 months, and then I don't know that I had much progress in general. I mean, I think it helped some, but basically we got to a point where she was telling me that I was doing everything right, and so I was gonna see a psychiatrist to get medicated, and so I had to do that in person. So then I went to some local places, and it was a bad experience of therapists and changing therapists and not being able to see the psychiatrist, and just lots of money and charges that were not told to me up front, even though I had asked, kind of thing. So I obviously stopped doing that. I was like, no, I'm not paying all this money. Why are you guys charging me like double what you should be? Like, it was that. Anyway, so I ended up doing research and found the therapist that I have now that I really like, and I do still see them every week. So there's that. But yeah, anyway, I started therapy to make sure that my decision to medically transition was in fact something that I wanted for myself, basically, I guess. And I started that in 2020. And then I think I must have triggered something, or had doubts or scared myself, or really just, I want to call it like a relapse. Like growing up, I always basically pretended to be someone that I thought that like other people wanted me to be, sort of thing. Like I feel like I didn't know what trans was until 4 years ago, but like I knew that I was trans from a very young age. Like before you think about gender at all, I didn't, like, you know, when you're young enough, you don't think about gender. And then as I start getting older, like I notice that everything that I relate to or that I think of for myself for the future is all me being a man. I'm always playing male characters. I role playing male characters. I want male professions, and like had a lot of issues with that. But I basically, to fit in, as most people do, kind of like had the whole female mask kind of thing and was pretending to be this person that I wasn't for a very long time. And so in 2021, I think like February 2021, and so at that point I had been wearing men's clothes all day, every day for a whole year. And I still did at home and when I worked out. So this like relapse, this like mask relapse was actually really only when I went out to events in the kink community that I'm a part of. And I would just like dress up really girly. And so I think for me it was almost like a role play type thing where it was like in my normal everyday life I was a man dressing as a man, and then when I'd go to these events I would dress up girly and present more feminine. I wouldn't say as a woman because I did not identify that way. And like I literally would dress up and wear makeup and look really pretty, but like also still want to be identified as male. So but yeah, so I kind of did that in like the first half of 2021 where I just like I felt really good dressing up like that, and I just kind of did that. And then by the end of 2021 is when I finally cut my hair. So I actually cut my hair to like chin length first. Now mind you, the whole underside was shaved, so it was just the top. The top was like chin length. So I cut it to chin length and I was really happy with it. Like I think I wanted it shorter, but like I think what happened was because my hair had been so long, even though I was like, I want you to give me a masculine haircut, and I went to a trans-friendly salon too. I think the person cutting my hair was a little bit leery of making it so short, and so they like cut it like chin length, maybe just slightly above chin length. And I actually really enjoyed it. It was like a huge weight like lifted off of my shoulders, like literally and metaphorically. Like there's so much less hair. And so I was really happy with that. And I don't know. So I got my hair cut, I want to say in December, and we actually went to my husband's family's house, and I became very aware of my dislike of feminine pronouns that people were using for me. And so it just kind of like reinforced the whole transition thing and being trans thing. And obviously I had my better therapist and have been talking with her, and I basically ended up deciding kind of at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, that like I think I was getting to a point where I just needed to start doing something where it was like I hadn't come out really, and I had been like living sort of as who I was, but I hadn't really done anything actively about it. And I just realized, I was like, well, at this point I just need to start actually living and forcing others not forcing, but like having others identify me correctly in a sense. So I actually started role-playing first online because I like role-playing, and I actually hadn't known that that was a thing when I was younger, and I wish I had, but I realized it was a thing, and I was like, I want to portray myself as a man and see how I feel about that kind of thing. And so I created my roleplay account as a man, and obviously I roleplay as a man too. But that was kind of like my first test into like me presenting myself as a man to other people who were then accepting me as a man kind of situation, and I really enjoyed that. And then I think shortly after that I got an account on Grindr, and I think that was one of my biggest fears, was as a person who is queer or really gay. I mean, I'm technically pan. I'm a lot of things, really. But I think I just had this really big fear that I would not be accepted by gay men because I was not born with male equipment. And that in itself was like a very like heartbreaking thing for me, because when you're a man who likes men and they don't like you because of your lack of equipment, it does not feel good. Anyway, so that was one of my fears. I think one of my other big fears that kind of like kept me from getting further into my transition sooner is that I've always had the same male personality, but I was afraid that people only liked me because I was a male personality with a female form. And so I think I have just been really worried that a lot of the people in my lives who liked me, my friends and stuff, that they wouldn't like me anymore if I actually looked like I should in relation to my personality, which is kind of silly, really. This kind of like not giving my friends enough credit. But those were kind of the big things holding me back. But I got on Grindr and like had some positive experience. I mean, you know, it's Grindr, so like it was about what I expected it to be. But I was surprised. I don't know. I think I really thought that I was gonna get a lot of hate for being trans on there, and I didn't. So that was cool. I mean, dating apps still suck, so it's what it is. But that was kind of nice, and it was kind of almost like reaffirming for me, like for my masculinity, where I was like, okay, well, if you know, gay guys like me, then that's a good thing, like, right? That makes me feel better about, you know, being a gay man, I guess. It was just something that I was really insecure about, so it felt good to like have some validation there. But anyway, so when I set up my roleplay account and my Grindr account, I actually used a name from one of the characters in one of my books that I write, which is Cole, and it's short for Colton. We were like going between Colton and Cole at the time. Or not, no. We were going between Cole and Kai, and actually Kai is the name of a different character in one of my other books. Because apparently the names that I use in my books are names that I would have liked for myself. I wanted a K name to stick with my original birth name, started with a K. So I wanted my new name to also start with a K. And so I ended up choosing Cole and used that for those profiles. And then shortly after, I got my hair cut even shorter. So closer to like basically what it is now. Like I got it short, like short. I think every time I go in, it just gets a little bit shorter, but then I let it grow out for a few months because I'm lazy. But yeah, so I actually did get it cut shorter, and then in April of 2022 is when I officially came out socially. I ended up just making a post on Facebook and tagging my friends and family and coming out as Colton and all of the different gender identities, sexuality, orientations, whatever, that I fit under label-wise. I threw out a bunch of labels and was like, yep, this is who I am, and had like a picture with my short hair. And so like that is when I socially transitioned, about 4 years after actually thinking about being trans. Might I add, I am, 31? So yeah, came out at the age of I think I was still 30. I think it was like a week or two before my birthday when it came out. So that was fun. I honestly haven't really interacted with my family much since coming out. I mean, I saw my parents and they were okay. But I haven't really gone to any of the big family events. So we'll see how that goes. You know, I think it's gonna be fine. But it's really one of those things where like it was time for me to finally just do it, because I had already had people calling me Cole. I came out like at my work and everywhere else. Like previously, a lot of my friends already knew. Like I had told them, you know, several years before. Like as soon as I started thinking about it, I think I started talking about it to my friends or telling them about it when I was drinking, because that's what one does. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. And it is, what is it? It's October of 2022 that I'm making this video. And the reason that I'm making the video is because I am starting to medically transition. It took 3 or 4 months. Like pretty sure back in April is when I started looking into medically transitioning and doing research on finding a doctor to see. And I found a doctor to see and had to wait 3 to 4 months before I could actually get an appointment with that doctor. So yeah, I had the appointment with the doctor and it went well, and I actually just got testosterone, which I'm gonna be starting today, and that is kind of why I made this video, so that we kind of have a starting place. And I'm just going to probably do monthly updates on YouTube for this. I think I'm gonna do like weekly updates maybe on TikTok, which will be linked below if you want to check out my TikTok. I'm going to be doing like daily vlogging for the month of November, because I'm getting surgery and starting T and also doing NaNoWriMo. So if you guys want to follow that, you can just follow my TikTok to see those videos. But otherwise, yeah, I'm probably going to video doing my first shot, and then I will do regular monthly updates to let you guys kind of follow along in this journey with me, see how things change, and yeah. That's what I got for you guys. This was a little bit of a long one, but that's really all I have to say. Feel free to, you know, post in the comments if you have questions or things like that. I may or may not answer them, depending on how I'm feeling. But yeah, I am just here to share my journey. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like these types of videos, let me know by commenting below, giving this video a thumbs up, or subscribing to my channel. I will be posting my Transformation Tuesday videos on Tuesdays, probably once a month. I also live stream on Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will post writing related videos on Wednesdays. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.